Yo, so pretty much recap for the Friday or Thursday night Asia, um, for example. But yeah, going into essentially Thursday night, or could have almost been Friday morning. Friday for me, it's a bit more bullish on price. We had this massive sell-off on Thursday session during New York, but we kind of delivered in 4-hour fair value. We were still holding this daily fair value. We closed above it, so I couldn't really be properly bearish. And then we came into the equilibrium, this range. So we were kind of in discount. It kind of made more sense to see long entries here rather than short. So going into the session, I was more bullish for Asia. I saw these relative equal highs up in the 1 minute, and I saw more highs, a lot of stacked highs, um, just sitting above on price. So I was a bit more bullish. Didn't really have any good setups here. That would have been, how do you say, amazing. We were delivering on 4-hour fair value, bullish fair value, so there was kind of always a setup you could have taken in this area for longs. There's only a few good entries that I saw, which were kind of nice and V-shaped, you could say. The one in the 9 p.m. macro was definitely the highest probability setup. You're still delivering in 4-hour fair value. You kind of delivered or created these little small relative equal highs up here, just generated some liquidity. Pretty much equal highs, which is even a stronger draw. You had a 1 minute inverse fair value gap and the price goes up. So Asia didn't really do much. Maybe there was some small internal setups, but did have a more bullish bias. Just didn't really get anything amazing to take though. I think if we do watch on later in the day, we eventually do keep on climbing up throughout the session into the midnight open. And yeah, so pretty much a bit after midnight is where we have that strong expansion. So going into London, I wasn't quite sure what we had here, because what we did do is we did have this 4-hour fair value gap that did form. Wasn't quite sure if price would hold this or if we wanted to make another move higher. We didn't inverse it. If we inversed it, it would have been a very simple bullish bias. I want to see price go up into this hourly fair value gap. But we didn't really quite have what we wanted. What we did have is we had a really nice bullish fair value gap entry around 2 a.m. It was a bit outside the 2 a.m. macro, but we had these kind of highs here that we created, and we had a really nice V-shaped inverse fair value gap in the 1 minute here. But going into London, I liked the idea of a reprice down. The only thing that formed was this kind of double stacked 5 minute inverse fair value gap. We eventually did confirm on it, but it just wasn't the greatest confirmation. It just kind of slowly trickled down. It confirmed, and price just used those lows there as a kind of essentially another market maker buy model after generating some relative equal highs here. So London, I like the idea of being a bit more bearish, but considering the 4-hour fair value gap, and you had these kind of lows in fair value here as well, but price didn't give it to that, so I kind of left it for the New York session. This New York session, you had NFP data, so what you had is, you had this really strong expansion. I did eventually take a short setup right before the market open. Essentially, again, yes, I was more bullish at this point for price to go higher, but I did like the idea of maybe even a short setup in hourly fair value for just a reprice back down if price formed in an hourly fair value gap. In this case here, what we did have is we had the open and we had these highs here. And what we did do is price eventually does take them. And the setup that I attempted to do was this 3-minute inverse fair value gap. I already had this on an eval account, so I didn't mind. It wasn't the strongest trade because you were going against order flow, but I like the idea of a short position here, putting your stop a bit above here. Very small risk. Very small risk. If I can sort it out. Very small risk, and I like the price going down to one of these lows here. It's a nice 1.5 R&R. Unfortunately, the price did not want to give it. It got disconfirmed at market open. I took this right before market open, which wasn't the greatest idea. Considering how strong and bullish price was, it would have been probably better just to be a bit more patient, but we didn't do that. So going into the session, we had a strong expansion to begin. And essentially, I was more bullish in this case. It's just I didn't really get any high probability setups in this session. I was looking for possibly a long entry. Once 10 a.m. candle formed, we saw this hourly fair value gap. We didn't inverse this 1 hour, and we didn't come into bullish fair value, so it just kind of didn't make sense. There was probably a few kind of long attempts you could have taken here. Nothing was high probability in my thought process. There was a 2-minute setup as well here. This was probably the strongest setup, kind of generated all these highs. I think I already turned off my computer by this point, but this probably would have been the best long setup. You had essentially this 1-minute inverse fair value gap. Price confirmed, closed above, and you took those previous highs, but had one 3-minute short attempt, didn't work. Going into next time, I'd probably wait for the session open. Oh, it was a good confirmation trade. It's just, I think definitely it's not a trade you would take on a live account with real money, of course. You would have waited for something, but I think considering the fact it was Friday, I'd probably be a bit more cautious, a bit more patient, but had an attempt, had good R&R, and it didn't work. But those are the 3 sessions for the day.